Tomorrow night, the College Football Playoff Committee will release their first set of rankings. And just like the AP poll has been all year long, we expect the initial set of rankings to be absolutely terrible, which is why we're here to do things right. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert here with our Week 10 GE Top 25 poll heading into the month of November, the biggest month of the entire college football season. And we're here to break down our official top 25 ranking, explain why teams are ranked where they are as we head into a massive weekend of college football. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including these expert picks over here over on thegridironexpert.com. Go sign up for those picks today. We are on a 55-26 run against the spread. That's 69.7%. You're not going to find picks like this anywhere else. You're not going to find as low of a price like this anywhere else. You're not going to find a year-long subscription for that price anywhere else. We got some of the best picks in the entire country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers, and we want you to take advantage of those picks and win big with us today. 55-26 run. The link for that is right down in the description below. So let's go ahead and dive into these rankings, guys. Again, the playoff committee releases their first set of rankings tomorrow. We'll be here with the live stream to break down those rankings as they come out. Right as they come out, we will give you our live reaction and analysis to those rankings. And let's see how ours stack up to theirs. Have a feeling they'll be drastically different. But you take a look at our rankings, guys, based on what we've been doing all year long. We've been giving you these rankings every Monday. Our top 5 remains unchanged, and really they shouldn't. So my top 4 teams right now would be Michigan, Georgia, Florida State, and Ohio State. Michigan off their bye week. Georgia taking down Florida 43-20. Florida State taking easy care of Wake Forest 41-16. And then Ohio State going on the road and beating Wisconsin 24-10. Many believe, and I could see this happening, Ohio State being the number 1 team in the country because they arguably have the best resume in the country to date. They have that road win at Notre Dame. They have the 8-point victory over Penn State. They had the road win at Wisconsin, which is not a bad win at all. So Ohio State does have some quality wins on their resume, but I like Michigan at number 1. I believe the Wolverines, despite not having maybe the best resume in the world, they have been the most dominant, most efficient, best team in the country all season long. They've done that every single week. We've seen that every single week, and the Wolverines will continue to have an opportunity to show that here in the coming weeks when they take on Penn State, and then, of course, Ohio State in that season finale. But that would be my top 4 as of right now. They have remained unchanged. Washington in at number 5 following their lackluster win against Stanford, 42-33. But the Huskies, despite lackluster performances against Arizona State and Stanford, are still undefeated, still the top team in the Pac-12. But I'm beginning to think Oregon might be the best team in the conference. And I'm telling you right now that based on what I've seen these last few weeks, if I were to see Washington and Oregon face off in the Pac-12 championship tomorrow, I would be picking Oregon to win that game. The Huskies remain number 5 because they do own the head-to-head over Oregon as of now. I'm not going to rank the Ducks above them, but Oregon is playing lights-out football. Some could say they should have beaten Washington had not been for a couple of red zone blunders and a couple of questionable calls at the end on Dan Lanning's part, not the officials. But Oregon coming in at number 6 after their dominant win against Utah, 35-6 in Salt Lake City. Not many teams can do that, especially on the road. Oregon's looking like a well-oiled machine, maybe one of the best teams in the entire country. And I feel like we're on a collision course, a crash course, to see the Huskies and the Ducks face off again in what could be a playoff play-in game later on in December. Texas in at number 7. They beat BYU without Quinn Ewers, beat them 35-6, so an impressive victory for the Longhorns against a BYU team that did have 5 wins at the time. Don't want to sleep on that victory. It was an impressive game all the way around from the offense, but more so the defense as well. The Longhorns remain above Alabama, up 2 spots, coming off their bye week. Huge game coming up against LSU this Saturday. We'll have analysis for that game coming out on Wednesday. Predictions for all of the ranked versus ranked matchups coming out starting on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on those upcoming prediction videos. Penn State down a spot to number 9. Alabama actually jumping the Nittany Lions here. Just was not impressed in the slightest bit with Penn State. They lost to Ohio State, okay. Bounce back against Indiana as 31-point favorites, and you barely win 33-24, a game that was tied late in the fourth quarter. It was a pitiful performance from James Franklin's squad. That's not the look of a top 4 team. That's not the look of a Big Ten title contender. You have to be mentally strong enough to not have a hangover when everything is still right in front of you. Sure, you lost to Ohio State. Boo-hoo. Get over yourself. If you can go on in a couple weeks and beat Michigan, you're right back in that college football playoff hunt. But if you had lost to Indiana, everything would be done. We've seen this happen time and time again from James Franklin. Lackluster performances, sometimes losses against teams like Illinois, Michigan State, nearly had another blunder against Indiana, Penn State. If you want to have an opportunity for a special season, wake up. You need to wake up, because that was a pitiful performance against the Hoosiers, and because of that, you do drop a spot in our rankings and get jumped by another one-loss team in Alabama. Oklahoma rounding out our top 10, down 4 spots following their loss to Kansas. An upset loss in Lawrence. Oklahoma barely survived UCF, only winning by 2. Kind of felt like I felt that they'd bounce back in a big way against Kansas. They were unable to do so, losing 38-33 on the road to the Jayhawks. So Oklahoma still remaining in the top 10. That win over Texas holding a lot of weight for them right now, even though the Longhorns now are above them in the rankings. Oklahoma, like Texas, like Oregon, like Penn State, teams that already have those 1 losses could still find themselves into the playoff if they can win out and then win their conference championships. The Sooners still have all their goals set in front of them, but not a good loss against Kansas on Saturday afternoon. Over in the second column here, that wraps up our top 10. Notre Dame, nearly put Notre Dame in our top 10. Was very, very close to putting the Irish at 10th and Oklahoma at 11th. By giving very slim margin, giving the edge to Oklahoma. But the Fighting Irish beat Pittsburgh 58-7. A very impressive victory over a bad Pitt squad this year. The Fighting Irish still playing fantastic ball. Have an opportunity to still get a New Year's 6 bowl berth if they can win out. Big game coming up this weekend, though, at Clemson. Even though they're 4-4, Death Valley, not going to be an easy place to play. Ole Miss, and at 12, we got a stretch of SEC teams here. Ole Miss beating Vanderbilt up 2 spots because of what happened in front of them. A handful of teams losing in front of them, so Ole Miss benefiting from that. They're at 12. LSU, Missouri, both did not play. They're both up 2 spots as well. Again, LSU playing Alabama, Missouri playing Georgia this Saturday as well. So a major, major matchup. Both games could determine the SEC West and then the SEC East as well. And again, we'll have analysis for those games coming out here in a few days. Do not miss out on that. Louisville up to number 15. They're up 7 spots for us. They benefited from some teams losing ahead of them, but they also benefit from beating a top 20 team by 23 points. Top 20 team, 23-0. And I know Riley Leonard may not have been the healthiest or anything like that, but look, Louisville is 7-1. They have 1 crazy fluke loss to Pittsburgh, but they have a dominant double-digit win against Notre Dame, number 11. They've got a dominant double-digit win over Duke, who unfortunately fell out of our top 25. So that's 2 double-digit victories at the time over top 20 teams. Not many teams in the country can say they have that. So give me the Cardinals into the top 15. They have a favorable schedule down the stretch. Could see them possibly at 11-1 in the ACC championship game when they more than likely play Florida State. And that would make things very interesting when it comes to the playoff race. And it will be interesting to see where the committee ranks the Cardinals in their initial set of rankings tomorrow night. Air Force, and at 16, the Falcons will be interesting to see where they come out. Their strength of schedule, not very good at all, but Air Force deserves some credit. Beat Colorado State 30-13. They're undefeated. All but one win has come by double digits. That's impressive. So Air Force isn't just barely getting by these teams. They're dominating these teams. They're destroying these teams. They're winning convincingly. And we do have the Falcons as the top-ranked Group of 5 team in our GE Top 25. We told you last week that the margin between Air Force and Tulane was very, very slim. Air Force gained a little separation with the way they've been winning. Tulane barely getting by Rice this weekend, only winning 30-28. So give me Air Force there. Tulane staying at number 18, getting jumped by Kansas. Some would say I have Kansas ranked a little too high. Maybe I do, and maybe we'll drop Kansas if they lose to Iowa State this Saturday. Who knows? But I like Kansas in the top 20. To me, they are a top 20 team. You have to keep in mind the Jayhawks are 6-2. They just took down a top 10 opponent in Oklahoma. A massive, massive victory for this program. Their only 2 losses were on the road to Texas. Okay, no big deal there. And then a game at Oklahoma State that they probably should have won. They didn't. Should have, would have, could have. But a game that they lost by 7 on the road to Oklahoma State, who's on fire right now. Who's picking up a lot of steam heading into Bedlam this Saturday. Talk about Oklahoma State. So Kansas is playing really good football. They have 2 quality losses against 2 teams that we have in our top 25. They were doing those games without Jalen Daniels as well. They're winning these games. They beat Oklahoma with a backup quarterback as well. And, Jason Bean, yes, he's not your typical backup quarterback. He's way more experienced than the average Joe, but still, give the Jayhawks and Lance Leipold some credit. If you don't like them at 17, fine, but they are a top 20 team in our eyes. Kansas jumping from the unranked to number 17, Tulane at 18. Oregon State and Utah, both massive droppers. Oregon State dropping 6 after their upset loss to Arizona. Talk about the Wildcats being on fire. Arizona right on the outside of our top 25 looking in. Very, very good team. They have 3 losses, but 5-3, 1 win away from bowl eligibility under Jed Fish. Utah dropping 9 spots following their annihilation to Oregon, losing 35-6 in that game at home, ending their 18-game home winning streak. So it was unfortunate to see that, but Utah's luck was bound to run out, right? I mean, they felt like they were playing on borrowed time without Cam Rising and a lackluster offense. They were relying on their defense. Their defense was no match for Oregon's offense. So Utah dropping 9 spots, still a top 20 team, but Oregon State ahead of them due to the head-to-head result that we saw earlier this year. Final 5 teams in our rankings: UCLA up 2 spots to number 21. Big-time win over Colorado, beating them by 12 points. It wasn't the most impressive victory in the world, 28-16, but a win's a win's a win. It's a conference victory as well. They shut down primetime, and UCLA getting 2 spots because of that. Oklahoma State, Kansas State, both coming into our rankings, back in the rankings, I should say. The Cowboys ahead of Kansas State only due to head-to-head. We're going to honor that. These 2 teams have the same record. They're both playing fantastic ball right now. Some would say Kansas State's playing a little bit of better ball, but I'm not going to rank the Wildcats ahead of Oklahoma State when the Cowboys did beat them just a few weeks ago. Oklahoma State taking down Cincinnati 45-13. Ollie Gordon has been phenomenal on the ground, already 1,000 yards rushing on the year. Kansas State defeating Houston 41-0. They've won their last 2 games by a combined score of like 82-3, 41-3 over TCU, 41-0 over Houston. The Wildcats, the reigning Big 12 champions, feel like people are forgetting about them. They're kind of just tossing them to the side. They are still in the hunt for a Big 12 title, and are still a team you need to watch out for and should take seriously. They're on a roll. Oklahoma State's on a roll. Give them both to me in the top 25, ahead of Tennessee, who stays at number 24 following a narrow victory on the road against Kentucky. And then James Madison dropping a few spots, barely surviving Old Dominion. Not really punishing James Madison for staying undefeated, but obviously I'm more impressed with the play of Oklahoma State and Kansas State, and also the people, the opponents they're beating, versus James Madison, who, yes, while undefeated, does deserve to be ranked, does not deserve to be ahead of UCLA, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, etc., because of the strength of schedule, because of the quality of opponents, and things like that, and also just barely surviving against a mediocre or below average Old Dominion team. We've got teams right on the outside looking in. Duke falls out, but they still are on the outside looking in. Liberty knocking on the door, undefeated in the Conference USA. Arizona knocking on the door, as we mentioned. Miami's knocking on the door. Fresno State's knocking on the door. A lot of teams right on the outside looking into this top 25. And after a massive weekend that we have coming up, we will see a handful of new teams in our Week 11 GE Top 25. But this is what we've got heading into Week 10, a massive weekend for football. The day before the playoff rankings are released, let's see how ours stack up against theirs. We can only hope that they have a good first set of rankings. But again, we will be here with our live analysis and reaction tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central Time, right here on the channel. Do not miss out. Let's get ready, guys, for a very spooky night of playoff rankings and get ready for the biggest month of the college football season. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including these expert picks. Go sign up for those picks today. 55-26 run against the spread. You're missing out if you haven't signed up yet. You're missing out on guaranteed winnings and one of the best offers in the entire country. Go sign up for those today. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.